Congressman Gowdy and I were talking ahead of time about South Carolina as one of the carve-out states, along with New Hampshire and Nevada, and then of course Iowa. And we were talking about the responsibilities that brings upon us and the importance that the entire state can perceive and is wise about picking candidates, and the fact that we are bottom up. So from one carve-out state to the other, welcome to Iowa. And the other thing I want to mention about to Congressman Gowdy is we are so proud. Now it's not, well, yeah, it is kind of bragging a little bit, Congressman, but we got, I mean, you check off who we got. We got Chuck Grassley, we got Governor Kim Reynolds, we got fantastic legislators, and then of course, what's that one? I'm missing somebody. Oh, yeah, we've got the first combat veteran to ever serve in the United States Senate. Her name's Joni Ernst. So I am kind of bragging, Congressman, but I know they think a lot of you, and that means we think a lot of you. And in all seriousness, we got a president that's under fire. We've got a country that's under fire by the bureaucracy. We got a country that's under fire by a whole lot of fibs. We got a country that's under fire by CNN, the confused negative nonsense is what I call it.
I like that.
And let me tell you something, you need people at the head of these oversight committees, and you need individuals at the head of these judiciary committees that aren't afraid to dig. Now, does that mean they're going to agree 100%? I hope not. I want a transparent system. I want a system where we're going to dig. And we're not going to allow the fools and the pseudo-journalists at CNN and MSNBC determine I'm going to put my trust in an oversight committee chair that has no other reason to do what he's doing except for good government. And I believe that that's what Trey Gowdy is. So on behalf of Iowans, thank you for your work. Thank you for standing up for our negative integrity, or for our positive integrity. And thank you for being in Iowa. Congressman Gowdy, the microphone is yours.
Thank you all. I want to start by thanking you for your warmth and hospitality, welcoming somebody from South Carolina in a non-presidential year. Thank you for welcoming me. I also want to tell your governor, I just met your governor. She's got me wanting to move to Iowa. The accomplishments, in addition to the beauty of this state, Governor, it was great meeting you. I wish you all the luck. Met your Lieutenant Governor. I got a colleague here, Representative Young is here. But I want to tell you, when I told my wife that I was speaking of beautiful, when I told my wife I'm coming to Iowa, I said, can you believe that I have been invited to the state that picks presidents and feeds our country? I said, in your wildest dreams, honey, because that's what I call her. Her name is Terry. But I said, honey, in your wildest dreams, did you ever think that your husband would be invited to Iowa? In your wildest dreams, did you ever think your husband would be invited by Joni Ernst to Iowa to speak on the heels of Vice President Pence last year with Timmy Scott? I said, baby, in your wildest dreams, did you ever think that would happen to someone who had my grades in high school and college? And my wife looked at me and said, let me assure you, Trey, you are not in my wildest dreams. So, our friends in the media just asked me if I was here because I was running for president. And I said, nah, it's an even older emotion than ambition that brought me here. It's called friendship. I respected Joni before I met her. And then Timmy Scott kept telling me how wonderful she is, and she's joined us for dinner, and she has this unique ability to project both toughness and kindness in a political environment where kindness is not always seen. No one doubts her toughness. No one doubts her military service. Anyone that saw the ad she ran when she was running was scared to death. But Joni, you have proven even to an old cynic like me that you can be a decent, kind, generous person and still be committed firmly to what you believe and your values. And in a time where sometimes we wonder, can you be all of those things at once? You have proven that you can. So thank you. And that is why I'm here, because I'm a huge fan of your senator. I'm also a huge fan of your other senator. And I can't help but think, I'm going to get this wrong, so forgive me. But aren't y'all glad there's a farmer running the Senate Judiciary Committee? Did I get that right? Didn't somebody wonder? You're right, he ain't an attorney, but I'll tell you what he did. He got you Neil Gorsuch, and he got you a bunch of judges. And judges never die, they live forever. And he's also leading some really important investigations, and he does it with a humility and an integrity that you don't often see in politics. So for your delegation, for my colleague Representative Young, for your governor, for your lieutenant governor, for Joni, and for Senator Grassley, I want to say thank you. But I really want to say thank you to you, because it takes no courage to be a Republican in South Carolina. Our governor's a Republican, our Senate's Republican, our House is Republican, 6 of our 7 members of the House are Republican, both of our U.S. senators are Republican. There's so few Democrats left in South Carolina that we've begun to fight among ourselves. It's actually more true than you might imagine. But it just doesn't take any courage to be a Republican in South Carolina. Iowa's different. Iowa's a toss-up state. Iowa's one of the states where you go to bed on the East Coast wondering, when the final votes are cast, is it going to be blue or red? Joni had a tough race against a former House member. My colleagues have tough races this fall. This ain't South Carolina. It's Iowa. And it requires courage and hard work and good candidates. So I want to say, on behalf of a state where you ain't got to work that hard to elect Republicans, thank you for being willing to do. We got the Senate, but we got it by 1. We got the House, but how would you like to have it by enough where we can actually pass the Farm Bill, as opposed to getting on the verge of passing it? So what I really want to talk to you about today is winning is good. Winning's great. Winning's got us the chairmanship of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Winning got us tax reform. Winning got us Neil Gorsuch and a lifetime of other judges. Winning got us a better foreign policy. Winning got us perhaps on the precipice of de-nuking North Korea when no one thought that that could be possible. Winning is better than losing. But it wouldn't be me, and it wouldn't be my nature if I didn't add a but. And here's the but. We have won 1 out of the last 7 popular votes for president. We've won the Electoral College twice. And that's all that matters. I'm not disputing that. I'm not debating that. I'm saying I want us to win in such a way that it is sustainable, that we don't have to worry every 4 years, that we have more than 1 vote margin in the Senate, that we're not worried about holding on to the House. I want us to build something that lasts longer than an election cycle. And when you have lost 6 out of the last 7 anythings, whether it's a trial in a courtroom or a popular vote, it is fair to ask, what can we do better? How do we build something where we win not just the Electoral College, but we win the hearts and minds of a majority of our fellow citizens? And the good news, partly because I'm Baptist and partly because it's hot, is there ain't but 3 things you got to do. Number 1 is the message. Are we communicating the right message? And included in that is not just telling people what you believe, but do you tell them why you believe it? Do you believe, as your governor just so eloquently laid out, that education and hard work is the pathway to prosperity? Can you convince a skeptic of that? Do you believe in respect for the rule of law? Do you believe, as I do, that law is the most unifying, equalizing force that we have in our culture, that it is the only thing that makes the poorest person in Iowa drive the same speed limit, apparently the Democrat nominee for governor, who would be the richest person in Iowa, you got to drive the same speed limit. It's the law that does that. Can you explain why you peace through strength? That's a Republican talking point. Can you explain why that is part of our core message? Accountability to others and a shared citizenry. Can we explain that? We've got to do a better job of persuading our fellow citizens not just what we believe, but why we believe it. And you may say, why does why matter? I spent 2 decades talking to people that couldn't get out of jury service. That's how you get on a jury, isn't it? Can't get out of jury service. You never have to prove why in a courtroom. Never. There's not a single crime you can name where I have to prove why the person did it. But it is the very first thing that your fellow citizens who are serving on a jury want to know. We are wired to ask why. So if we're going to build something sustainable, we have to not only tell people what we believe, we have to tell them why we believe it, and we have to tell them in a persuasive way. So the message matters, the manner in which we communicate matters. And I will speak to myself. I need to do a better job of convincing my fellow citizens exactly what your governor just laid out. That we realize where you are in life. That maybe we were there once too. That we understand your aspirations. That we understand the hopes that you have for your children and your grandchildren. That we understand your anxiety. That we understand your apprehension. I need to do a better job of convincing my fellow citizens that maybe voted the other way, or maybe they're on the fence, or maybe they're getting ready to check out of politics. That not only is our message right for us, but it's also right for you. Last year, you had a guy named Tim Scott, my best friend in politics. Timmy and I were eating dinner a couple years ago, and we were talking about how difficult, frankly, it is to be an African American, to be a Republican, to be a conservative. And he was telling me a story about growing up in Charleston, South Carolina, in a single parent household with his mom, Miss Frances. There was a man in the house, his grandfather, Artemus Ware, and Mr. Ware picked cotton. But Mr. Ware, at breakfast, would hold up the Charleston Post and Courier, local newspaper, because he wanted his grandson to value education. He wanted his grandson to understand current events. He wanted his grandson to know what was going on in the world so he could do something other than pick cotton. And as lawyers do from time to time, I interrupted Senator Scott, and I said, yeah, that reminds me how I grew up. My dad, who's a doctor, did the same thing with my 3 sisters and I at the breakfast table. Holding up the paper, wanted God and everybody else to know he was reading the newspaper. And Tim hung his head and said, the difference, Trey, is my grandfather couldn't read. Never learned to read. Died at the age of 94, not being able to read. But he had so much hope that his grandson would have a better life that he faked it. He faked it, and the man that grew and picked cotton lived long enough to see his son pick out a seat in the United States House of Representatives. If more people understood that we not only understand that story, we want that story. So I am disappointed that the word hope was malappropriated by a campaign in 2008, because we should be the party of hope. Last fall, my wife made me go to a wedding with her. That's probably not the right way to phrase it. You know what? If you want me to go to your wedding, don't get married on the Saturday in the fall. It's college football. And I told my wife that, and she said, get your tail in the truck, you're going to your sister's wedding. So I wound up, we went. And it's the same thing at every single wedding. You got the unity candle. You're trying to hope that thing doesn't blow out. But then they get to the scriptures. These three things remain: faith, hope, and love. The greatest of these is love. We all know that. We all know that. What's the big deal? You ever think about how powerful hope and faith must be to even be in the conversation with love? Do we understand the hopes that other people have, and do we feed their faith that our way is better than the other way? The message, the way we communicate, and you're sitting there thinking, okay, all right, we need one more thing. We need somebody to deliver it. We need a messenger. This is where I can help you. For soon to be 8 years, I fly into an airport named after Ronald Reagan, into a city named after George Washington. And if you look out the left-hand side of the plane as it lands at DCA, you see memorials to all the names that one would be tempted to believe made this country. You got Washington, you got Jefferson, you got Lincoln, you got Dr. King, you got every building named after someone famous, every street's named after someone famous, the building where Joni works is named after someone famous, and you begin to have this false impression that our country is what is out that side of the plane. The fame, the names you know, the names you were forced to learn in history class. And it takes you a little while, but eventually you start looking out the other side of the plane at these gently rolling hills punctuated by elegant white crosses. And you may not know the name of a single person there. Who built this country? The names you know are those nameless women and men who found something bigger than themselves to serve and ultimately sacrifice for. The messenger is the same as it's always been. Average, everyday Americans who decide we are going to have the greatest experiment in self-governance the world has ever known, and we're not going to let the elected officials stop that from happening. You are the messenger. So do me the favor of delivering that message in November and for every November to come. God bless you. Thank you for your senators and your House members, most of them. Help your governor, help your lieutenant governor. Most of all, thank you for helping pick presidents and leading this country. God bless you.